All right. Should be recording now.
Or
Dave is.
somebody is.
Well, I heard it
Has.
say recording in progress, and I
Yeah,
saw.
Dave's trying to talk, but he's muted. There we go.
Welcome to the
uh,
September 23rd uh, session of TAPR and HamSCI technical session. My name is Dave, KV0S, and this week I've been uh, working on a few things. I actually had my old profession was a forester, and I spent some time out in the field with some forestry people in Missouri this week. So that took up some of my time. Otherwise, I've been working with folks on this list on potential new projects. So that's about it for me. Next on the list is Nathaniel, W2NAF.
Thanks, Dave. Same as always, just continuing to move things forward with projects at Scranton Teaching. I actually got back into doing some data analysis this weekend and continued working on my MSTID project, which was great. I think the announcements that are useful to people on this list are for people who are waiting for information about AGU. We still do not have the date for sure of what day our presentation is. I'm told that it's likely going to be Monday, the first day of AGU, but they said it's still not set in stone, so we have to wait before we can still make reservations. So that is, but so I am keeping track of that. Other than that, we're getting ready for, what's that?
I would make a short synopsis of what your wife and her colleague is doing.
Oh, yes. Yes, Dave Witten might be interested in this. Last year, my wife and I talked with Dave Witten about putting together a internal research grant proposal where we are working with the magnetometer to essentially create some sort of lab activities where we buy some Helmholtz coils and a function generator and set the TAPR magnetometer up in a lab and be able to program the Helmholtz coils, program the signal generator to drive the Helmholtz coils in a certain way and run simulations and come up with some demonstrations to better explain how the system works and to give people a little bit more hands-on with this. So I'm happy to say that that grant, that internal grant was selected, and we actually did purchase the Helmholtz coils and the signal generator and everything. And now my wife is she's our colleague Christine Zagziski, who's now KE2 FDW. She is an electrical engineering professor with us. She saw the equipment on Rachel's desk and said, "Oh, that looks like fun. Can I do it too?" So now my wife and Christine and Majid are really all working together, and I come in a little bit, but they're really the ones doing the hands-on work. And so they are, moving ahead with playing with the magnetometers. So it's coming. They were actually in the lab today setting things up. So yeah, that's very exciting.
Very good. Next on the list is Dave, KD0EAG. Go ahead.
I'm trying to keep out of trouble. I have been pretty busy the last week, mostly banging my head on problems I solved years ago. Um, the magnetometer in question, the magnetometer is reading fine. I just have a little trouble reading the temperature sensor, and who knows, maybe I've got a bad one here. I'd love to think that, but I don't think it's the case. Anyhow, I'm somehow I'm not understanding the value I get back, and but I seriously hope to get that cleared up. I've been doing a surprising amount of playing with AI integration of development tools, and to good effect, to very good effect in several spheres. And that's been kind of fun. Um, but I try not to get too distracted with it. Um, it's giving me, well, its results on when I have it do magnetometer things are just the same as mine, which I don't understand in either case. So, but I am trying to learn what the contemporary um, way of doing things is, and it has changed. Everything, even the schematic stuff is getting plugins. The KiCad, the even the 3D printer softwares and all those things, of course, have jumped on the bandwagon. So, got to keep up, I guess. Move forward or die.
I was doing something similar this weekend. I do all my coding, or I've done all my coding using Vim and Tmux, and I finally have been forcing myself to learn VS Code and the AI Copilot, GitHub AI Copilot thing. And yeah, it's a learning curve.
Ah, oh yeah, yeah. Well, just to be ornery, I have to do things differently, and so I'm using um, Sea Lion and WebStorm from IntelliJ, their IDEs, which are in a class with VS Code, um, and uh, and several different of the AI uh, embellishments to those. And but God, the tool chains you use to do even the most ordinary things these days, no such thing as, you know, GCC dash O, or, it's simple command line and then and link. No, 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 it's got to be 50 pieces of code, but it's fun.
Okay. Next on the list, let's go to Clint, KA7E, sorry, OEI. Go ahead, Clint.
Just nothing specific. Just too many things at once. So I'll just send it back to you.
Okay. Next on the list would be Dave, W6OQ. Go ahead.
Good evening. I'm here. I'm eating my dinner, so that's why my camera's off. But just seeing what I can learn as usual.
Well,
Thanks.
glad you're there. Next on the list is Dave Julian, WB8, sorry, WB9, YIG. Go ahead.
Good evening, folks. I am happy to report we have rain finally. Almost 2 inches today alone. So last time I saw that was July.
Yes.
And in
We-
getting ready for a cruise up to the New England starting Wednesday. So just trying to get stuff together. Back to the net.
Very good. Next on the list is Elmer in 3AGE. Go ahead, Elmer.
So per Clint, I had taken the VLF power supply and breadboarded that outside of the amplifier on a copper plate. Installed all my filters. I'm at a point now that I want to test how much reduction I have in the bypass capacitor to see if I'm low enough now that I don't create a ground loop source that's significant. So that's where I'm at.
Very good. This you're doing your own breadboarding. That's great.
Yeah, AI didn't get there yet.
Yeah. Next on the list is Jay Schwartz, WB8 SBI. Go ahead, Jay.
Okay, let me turn my camera on here. Uh, Camera, turn on. There we go. Hi there, everybody. Not a whole heck of a lot to report. My Morphine junk antenna is still sick, and I have to really put in some effort later this week to find a fabricator shop to build a bracket. It needs a new bracket. In the backup power generator world, last Thursday, my generator got its annual checkup, and this past Sunday, It was needed for 4 hours and 15 minutes when a
Oh.
tree hit a power line several houses away here and took out the entire block. So, karma was with me. Other than that, for those who speak Hebrew, Lashana Tova.
Very good. Next on the list is Michael Howen, AC0G. Go ahead, Michael.
Good evening, everybody. And ham-related stuff, I guess I've done a couple of things. The worked a little bit on Whisper Daemon documentation, and I've been installing Proxmox version 9 on a couple of B-Links, and I'm happy to say it's going really smoothly. I was inspired by Rob, who was installing it, and my familiarity had not yet extended to the latest version of Proxmox version 9, which is built on Debian 13. And some of the install problems I was having on Debian 12 and Proxmox 8 have all been cleared up, and it installed just lickety split. So um, I'm planning on trying to replicate some of the success other people have had running more than one 888 on a single B-Link, and exploring some of the security advantages that doing so on a Proxmox affords as well. Back to net.
Very good. Look forward to hearing the results. Next on the list is Paul, WB6 CXC. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, hi everybody. Yeah, before we started, I was describing the embarrassing software bug I had in the Whisper Son, but we got that fixed, and yeah, Nathaniel's going to have to update all of those systems that I sent him, but I hope that isn't too difficult to organize. The process isn't difficult, but getting it done might be. And let's see. Oh, let's see. Yeah, there was this 0 retries, the DC, digital conference kind of. They're trying to pick up where Tapper left off with the DCCs, and so I was the last minute presenter at that. It was kind of in my neighborhood, so I was able to hop on a ferry boat in the morning and get back on the ferry boat in the evening, and able to sleep in my own bed. And it went pretty well. I mean, the audience was definitely more interested in software and networking and all that, and they didn't care. Most of them really didn't care too much about ground loops and background noise and stuff like that. But there were a few. But anyway, it was nice to see something happening there. And I don't know, got a bunch of fighting with Microsoft and Visio, and I'm trying to do improve the graphics in my documentation. And I don't want to use Visio, but there are libraries, like radio symbol libraries that are available for that. And man, I'm normally not a Microsoft basher, but I would grab a torch and a pitchfork right now, trying to get that stuff figured out, and just to buy the thing. The hoops you have to jump through to actually buy an update. And then when you do, it doesn't do what you wanted. And oh, you want to do that? Well, here's an extra $15, and it still doesn't do it. Anyway, so that was a bit of a frustration. And bunch of random electronics, but I guess that's good enough for now. So back to net.
Very good. Next on the list is Phil, K9Q. Go ahead, Phil.
Hey, Dave. Not much more to report in the last week. I'm still just 2 weeks out from my surgery, but actually recovering very well. I mean, I actually even start getting interested in some heavy duty hacking again soon. Back to you.
Very good. Next on the list is Scott in 5DNL. Go ahead, Scott.
Hey, nothing exciting to report, although I do have the Bodnar on the supply right now. It's pulling 270 or 280 milliamps, and it is getting warm. Back to net.
Okay, very good. Next on the list is Tom in 5EG. Go ahead, Tom.
Good evening, Dave, everyone in the group. Managed to get all the LVDS lines and clocks routed on the circuit board. It's been a long time getting to the point where they could all be hooked up. They now have to be tuned, and that means making sure the lengths of the differential pairs are exactly the same, and that all the lines and all the clocks are within a millimeter or two of the same length. And so I think KiCad has tools that actually will let you tune differential pairs, and I've got to dig into that and see how to do it. So making progress. The route turned the chip at a 45-degree angle, and wires went in better places than they were before. Out of 8 data lines and 1 clock line, all 9 of them were flipped between both ends. So the IC has plus and minus on the opposite sides that the FX10 connector does. And so all the lines have got another set of vias, but it's all routed and making progress. Back to the group.
Very good. And I did see Paul Elliott nodding his head when you were talking about the tooling. So maybe
yeah, just actually I've done differential tuning too. It's pretty intuitive.
Okay.
So you shouldn't have a lot of problem with that, I wouldn't think.
Awesome. Thank you, Paul.
Sure.
And let's see. I think that brings us to Rob Robinette. So go for it, Rob.
Okay, well, you've heard before the call a little bit, but let me let's see. I have a few things that I've been working on. We in the last week we found at Gwen's request, we were searching for a receive site, a DAISY receive site in the Southwest U.S. and found the reporter, a Whisper Demon reporting site, K6VRZ, or VKZ rather, on Mount Palomar. Well, it turns out that K6VKZ is silent key, but he'd been maybe from the here beyond had been updating his software on his Whisper Demon server. So Phil clued me in that that there were Kiwis at that site that were on the Kiwi map. So I found the Kiwi map, and on it was the Kiwi manager's W1 something Dave, and he is the guy who's managing that site as part of the Palomar Amateur Radio Club. It's a superb site, and they have actually purchased from Jerry Butler, or in London, currently in London, G3 WIP, purchased his kit that he had down in the Falkland Islands. Jerry thought he wouldn't be using it again, so he sold it when he came back to the U.S. So they've purchased it, and then in the process of deploying it. So we'll have a new HamSCI DAISY site contributing soon, whenever the server returns to the here reality. Anyway, so that's going to be a real contribution, both and specifically for Glenn's studies on traveling wave ionospheric TIDs. He's preparing a presentation. Glenn is preparing a presentation which he shared a preview of with us. That is, I think, quite really has data about propagation modes through the day that I was completely unaware of. It's really, I think, a lot of good work he's doing. So anyway, that's the K6 VKZ project. It's really for Gwen, but it will help all of us in the end. You've heard from Paul about our work with Jerry Butler on the G3 WIP. He has 2 ARC 888s and 1 Whisper Sant, and now that they're, that they're functional, I think he can contemplate shipping them off to the South Atlantic. So we'll have 2 more Whisper Demon Daisy sites in the South Atlantic coming up in the next few months. Continue to be transmitting. I'm been putting up my 22 meter powerhouse 5 milliwatt beacon out of here, and occasionally I do get, once a week I get reports from the Canary Islands. So it's Dave, you're a pretty reliable reporter of my signals. KV 0OS is one
Yes.
of the reporters. So it's I haven't been transmitting for a long time, but I have let's see if I can't find the sharing button here. So I was going to show you a picture of this powerhouse site that I put up, but I can't find out where share. It's disappeared.
They moved, I think, things around.
I don't see it. Okay, well, you don't need to see a picture, but I do have the
No.
dipole hung up across it. I amazingly learned how to throw a line. Thanks to Clint, learned how to throw a line over a hill, over a tree. It's amazing. I've never done it before.
Those trees are useful for things.
They are. It's amazing. It's just amazing how accurate you can be and how high you can get things. So anyway, I have also did some work on Proxmox. Initially, it was to support. Well, we proposed it to as a security technique. I'm glad to hear that Michael's working on that part of it. Michael, that's the I got it working, and I can confirm that you can have 2 888s attached to a B-Link, and you can run them both at 125 megasamples, not miss a sample from both of them. And the virtual machine gets them. If you configure Proxmox to have the USB ports, you have to configure both USB 2 and USB 3 ports and forward both of them to the virtual machine, because when the 888 comes up, it's coming up on as a USB 2 device. And so you have to do both. You have to tell Proxmox to associate both USB 2 and USB 3 ports with your virtual machine. Doing that, it comes up just right out of Power Up. It's just like it's a native running on, except so far, and this is a request for Michael if he works on it. The power control and the frequency control stuff is not working. The Proxmox runs all of the CPU cores at full speed, so the thing gets real hot. The CPU is running at its full 4.4 gigahertz, and it's pulling 40 watts, and it heats up to 80C. And so I just haven't had time to. I've kind of stopped at the point of it works, but it's not a done deal. I mean, there must be a way to for the code in Whisper Daemon, which controls the frequency and reduces the power consumption from 40 watts to 20, and reduces the CPU temperatures from 80C to 50 or 40. Okay, I can run at 40C at 129 megasamples. That all of that I haven't doesn't work under a VM yet. So that's my Proxmox. I put that aside. And I hope, Michael, maybe you can work on it if you need some help on understanding how to control CPU frequencies. But and I didn't explore how to limit the networking for our security issues that we hope to gain from it.
Rob, incidentally, my Debian won't control anything on a VM that I run under it.
Yeah.
Supervisor.
Well, I gotta believe that now, the you have the AMD pthreads driver in your kernel? It's part of the Debian 13. It's not there in a Debian 12. Well, maybe in 12. It's certainly not in 11. Debian 11. So you have to have the pthreads driver built into the kernel, which is a default in Debian 13. So I installed the Proxmox that I installed is the version 9, which is built on Debian 13. So, but I didn't investigate if hopefully they included the AMD pstate kernel drivers in their the host. But I didn't explore it. But hopefully it's okay. WWV next week. Dave Schwartz is planning to go out with the new kit that includes the time reference injector. So I expect I'll be working with him when he goes out there, and we'll bring that up, and I'll be collaring Scott and Paul if needed to help me with the WWV bring up on this and validation. And I think, Paul, you were working on version 2 of the time reference injector, right? So.
Yeah, working on it, not making as much progress as I'd like, because I really want to get a more stable clock out of the thing. But for the actual reference itself, we don't need super accurate transmit frequency. So I could just push ahead on that and then worry about accuracy and a later spin of the thing.
Well, I mean, the accuracy is for the 27 megahertz output to drive the 888. Is that right?
Well, yeah, if we want the combined unit that has the reference, 27 megahertz reference plus the timestamp signal. The timestamp signal doesn't need to be super accurate, but if it's going to drive the 27 megahertz reference, that needs to be accurate. So might as well have the whole thing accurate. And I'm not there yet. I've got some options I'm looking at, and I'll probably end up asking for some advice from a couple people here, as far as GPS receive chips with dual output, what's available, because doing it all with just using the 1 hertz PPS signal as to control the phase lock loop, that's not really good enough for clock reference for the unless I go with an ovenized oscillator on the board. So, and even then it's kind of marginal. Anyway, so I'm making some progress, but I'm not there yet. And I'm really looking forward to hearing, seeing how what we do have works at WWV. Because I'm kind of afraid to actually launch a new design until we get some actual more feedback on the current plan.
That's very wise of you. I'm not pressing you to do it. I just want to make sure that you're still on board with it as a project.
Oh yeah, no, it's still burning a lot of cycles in my brain. I just haven't gotten as far as I'd like yet.
Okay. Well, let's see. Just the last thing on my list here was I've had a little work with Philip Gladstone about PSK Reporter. It turns out that the decoder I guess Phil Karn, who's with us, knows better about this, but apparently the decoder he uses doesn't really output an SNR value like the JT9 decoder that's part of WSJTX. It outputs some kind of quality metric for each spot that isn't really an SNR. It's some positive number that has only a very vague correlation with SNR. So Philip Gladstone basically just said, let's ignore that because it isn't comparable to the other PSK spots that are being uploaded to his server. So I I took Philip's new upload code and installed it as part of Whisper Daemon. But it turns out there was server code that he had also fixed, which he just sent me an email that he had also fixed that. So anyway, if any of you, I never look at the PSK reports. So, but for some people, they're really important, and hopefully that they'll be less misleading right now. Mark Jacobs, VK7 or VK5, well, who runs VK5 AGC or whatever it is identified this problem. We talked with him once, right? He's running a Whisper Daemon site in Adelaide, and he was the one who observed the SNR discrepancy. So he's a pretty good QA site for us. Okay, back to net. That's my summary.
Okay, well, we've called on everybody on the list as far as I could see. So we'd be open for general discussion.
Okay, I want to jump in here and just show you what can be done with 1 watt on 8 bands simultaneously. This will be real quick. How about that one? Share. What are we looking at here? Yeah, okay. God, everything else went away. Okay, you see the map there, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's I put my whispers on here in Friday Harbor. This is with the new improved working software. And I flipped the thing over to whisper mode for 24 hours just because there are a lot more whisper receivers. So I was just kind of taken by this. This is 8 bands, all 8 bands. But you'll notice we've got the Germans there down in Antarctica, but also up above Greenland and their ship. This the same group. They've got that ship that runs around, and so I was picked up simultaneously up there and down there from Friday Harbor. So I was pretty jazzed by that. So the new software is getting out. That's it. It is actually modulating. I'm very pleased to announce that. And let's see if I can. Something happened here. Yeah, okay, that's about it. And I've lost. Okay, here's the. Boy, that's weird. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, I lost the Zoom thing here. But I'm back, so I will stop presenting, I think.
Well, you're not out of presenting yet.
No, I'm not.
It can be hard to find if you have multiple monitors. It can be hard to find the quit sharing
Oh,
button.
here we are. Stop share. Yeah, it was hidden by something else.
Yeah.
Okay, back to net. Or I can keep talking. Come on.
Okay. Well, if we're gonna do show and tell, here's
Did you get yours, Rob? Yeah.
Here's mine. This is the last hour for my 5 milliwatt beacon. If if we look across, let's just do 24 hours. You can see I get people all over the U.S. and all these sites are mostly well, Bob seems to have disappeared. W1XP or whatever. You gave that, Nathaniel. You gave him he was up for a month or so, or a week or so, and doing excellently. This is Conrad, who's one of my Whisper Daemon guys. This is New Jersey site. The Jenny Jump site is very sensitive. It's a good site. You can see how many spots it recorded. Whoops, for me in the last 24 hours.
That's the one you told me was gain starved.
Yeah, and it probably could do even better. I haven't looked at it closely, but it sure is looking well. Here's K1 K3LR, also excellent. Okay. And George is here. He's got 4 antennas, and I think George, who doesn't join us, but he has been doing excellent work with antenna evaluations. He has a DXE and a high Z SAS and a low Z, and a medium Z SAS. And basically, in terms of this, for me, I think they perform almost identically. There's a small difference between them. So this is John Ackerman's site down here. And I don't know. I don't see you. I don't see you, Dave.
No,
In the last 20. Are you off not listening?
not that I know of, but
Well, I don't see you, and I don't see Michael's mother's site. We used to be one of the good receivers the last few days. We have, I think, had a very high MUFs.
yeah.
So they recently, so that these signals from me end up, the skip distance is probably pretty short. So these are probably two hops. And that of course, attenuates the signal. Each hop attenuates the signal quite a bit. The yeah. Okay. So anyway, that's one show and tell. This is I have been received, not I think the last few days, but I've been received on when the MVS aren't so high. John picks me up. EA8 picks him up. The German EA8 at his vacation house in the Canary Islands, which is those sites are the best whisper receive sites in the world consistently. They're just always the best. I mean, if you look at the top spotters list, and you'll see both his site and the one he maintains with his friends are always at the top of the top spotters list. And all of these are Whisper Demon sites, and many of them are Daisy contributing sites. So that's the one other show and tell I can show you. This is my powerhouse antenna and transmitter. You can see the transmitter hanging up there between the trees, the feed point. And there's a RG174 line that runs down through the branches, and there's a waterproof garden box, black garden box down at the base of the tree. You can see it. So that's the 35 amp hour battery I put in it. I think I need to kind of swap it out once every 2 to 3 weeks to keep it running. At some point I'll get tired of it, but it's fun to keep it running. I was also going to do some experiments with a vertically polarized dipole rather than horizontally to see if the potentially lower radiation angle might get me out better, at least have a different dispersion. So anyway,
Which direction is the dipole
the
favoring?
dipole is really a north-south dipole, so that that your Friday Harbor, site, and my friend Dick's site and your other guy up there are kind of off the end of the dipole, the north end of the dipole. But how much of a null is there on the dipole? I can't. There are times when
depends on the angle and all that.
And the interactions, there's all that foliage around my dipole, and so I can't. It'll be interesting. What I'd like to do is, is buy another RF0 and run up another vertical dipole next to this horizontal one, and compare them in real time, 1-to-1. I can tell you that transmitting continuously every 2-minute whisper slot gives you measurements, spot reports that you would not see if you were transmitting on a less frequent transmit schedule. So there's real value, I think, to the whisper sound and running it in the transmit all the time mode. I know many hams don't understand that and even consider it to be band pollution, but I think it's an incredible incredibly important. I mean, it's just sampling. It's, signal processing. The more samples you take, the better your measurements are. And if you choose to take fewer samples, you're just getting less data, and you miss events, high
Yeah, and
frequency
it
events.
depends on the thing that you're sampling, how quickly
Yeah.
that changes. Hey, for Nathaniel, and I'm interested in anyone else's thoughts on this. Nathaniel had asked me about the end-fed half-wave antenna. That the one we've been using comes with you can buy a bracket you can use to mount it on a pipe, a antenna pole, vertical pole of some sort. And so should he order that along with just the antenna? I've ordered them myself a couple times and end up never using them. I just, I hang the thing up with some paracord or hang it on a hook or something. Well, I don't have a mast that I could clamp it onto anyway, but for transmit, the end-fed half wave, does anybody think that mast mount adapter is worth getting? I'm not hearing anybody say yes.
I don't even remember using it when I put up
Because
my.
if I don't get it, I think I saved $20 or $40 a unit. So
I think at least it's a fairly expensive little bit of plastic and metal brackets. I mean, if you want to mount it on a mast, that's by all means, but I haven't used it myself. So it depends on where the antennas are going, I guess.
Yeah. And I suppose it's also the sort of thing that if someone does have a mast and they want to mount it and we don't have the thing, they can probably run to the hardware store and find something that will make do.
Oh, absolutely. Just a piece of plastic or wood and, get the U-bolts that are used for, TV antennas used to be all over the place and the hardware is available. I don't know how, probably not quite as easy to find now as it used to be in the hardware store, but
Amazon's your friend for that one.
well, yeah, there's that. So yeah, I would say maybe save the money,
Okay.
Nathaniel.
That sounds great. I will do that. Thank you.
Of course.
Rob,
We'll work on getting those ordered. Go ahead, Phil.
Is Ellesmere Island up, Rob? I haven't seen any reports from it in the day, and I can't get into it. I noticed that it wasn't hearing Paul's site, so I went looking.
I haven't. I
can't get into
I
it,
got
it's not reporting.
he did in the last week. He did report to me. There were reports of my signal from that site, my 22 meter signal, but I haven't logged onto it for years. I mean,
Okay.
years, months. You've
Well, I haven't, I haven't been checking these sites. I just checked tonight to see, and it wasn't up, or hasn't been up for a day, so for at least a day.
You need ice?
Yeah, I
Okay.
was disappointed that it didn't see me. I haven't
They're
tried
there
to
till after
check its
7:30,
receive
so
or
I'll go
transmit
in a minute.
status though.
Yeah. Sorry there, forgot to turn off the mic. It's not obvious. Anyway, Phil, I think we're Phil, if you're here, one of the things that's come up is that, the lack of SNR, which I'm not sure how important that is for the FT4 and 8.
SNR is really hard to measure. As long as you measure it the same way, the problem is different programs are not going to do that.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Mark Jacobs thought it was important, and but it's not so as important to me. I think that the FT4 and 8 reports are more metadata than real data. I mean, they're there or they're not. And,
yeah, exactly. They tell you the band's open.
Yeah. So you don't learn anything about frequency or frequency
Right.
stability, or
Right.
so you kind of, and you don't even know much about propagation because you don't know the power of the transmitter. So
True.
so I like the fact that whatever that decoder you're using, you're able to cover the whole of the band, right? You're decoding all of the.
Yeah, yeah. Phil Vesson actually discovered it was easy to modify to handle higher sampling rates.
Yeah.
And so I did that.
Well, that seems to me a real plus. Haven't looked through it. It would be interesting to do a study, look through the FT4 and 8 logs and just see how many reports coming from this are outside of the traditional FT4 and 8 bands.
Quite a few. That's what Phil found. And then I noticed that during contests, there are even more segments that get opened up. So it's a challenge tracking all down, especially during the expeditions.
Yeah. Well, I don't notice much in terms of processing power isn't really required by it. So
Oh, it does take more. It takes more
Yeah.
distance, but in the end, I could probably just end up processing the entire band, and it wouldn't cost that much.
Yeah. Well, I found, we still have gobs of processing power in the B link. So, I'm running the B links now at 1400, 1.4 gigahertz instead of their peak 4.4 gigahertz, and they still finish the decodes of the very inefficient Whisper D decodes in well under a minute. So, I don't, if we run out, if we need more processing time or power, we can just up the CPU speeds. But other than that, I'm trying to work on the servers, so trying to turn my attention in that direction.
Right.
I haven't been, one of the things I need to do is change, Whisper Daemon to understand your new build structure, the directory structure that you've.
All I did was move things into subdirectories.
I know it's just one of those software nibbles for me, just, probably would be a afternoon,
Well, if you didn't try to intertwine KNIQ Radio and Whisper Demon so much, you know.
How can I not?
Well, I keep telling you, we need to settle on defined interfaces.
Well, are you ready to?
Well, that's why I broke up the config files into sections, so you could just drop one
well,
in
we
if you want.
Well, I have to deal with the service files for CPU affinity settings. That's something.
Well, that's something else. I guess you'll still have to do, but it won't affect the program will at least run, even if you don't do that.
Yeah. No, you can't do just one. For any of you using it, if you are running more than one Q web session, you're probably going to see lines appear across the whole spectrum screen. If you have two of them running, it's almost certainly in those lines that look like thunderstorm flashes on your spectrum display are instantaneous CPU starvation. And that's because K9Q right now spawns its spectrum display threads. When you create that, the spectrum display thread runs on the same set of CPUs as the basic FFT and proc RX888s. And you really don't want to do that because the spectrum threads then starve the FFT and proc threads of their cycles. And I have set the processor frequencies so that you can have, if you have Whisper Daemon and you're looking at your Q web spectrum, that you can have only I think on one Q web session at any zoom level. But if you have two of them, you're likely to see occasional, every even 2 minutes, see bars, a flash across your spectrum and hear burps in the audio. So again, this is another place where I'm not sure that even it's the right thing for you, Phil, to try to assign that, although it would be helpful if you could assign them outside of, if you say not on the same core, if you could, when you spawn a spectrum thread, if you could make sure that it's running on any other CPU than the
Well,
one that,
remember, I've made some of the Spectrum threads a lot faster, right?
but it's still not fast enough. It's still at the spectrum setting, plus and minus 3 megahertz setting, intermediate setting. The spectrum thread consumes as much CPU cycles as the proc thread. So it's and if I set the proc thread to use half of the of a CPU core, that one thread spectrum thread consumes the rest of the CPU cycles.
Yeah.
And that's after, I believe, well, I don't know. I mean, I haven't pulled in any, I don't know if you've done any recent optimizations on your use of spectrum threads and with the
Well, I
QWEP.
did a couple weeks ago for my surgery.
I don't know. Yeah, was that before or after your change in the directory structure?
I'm not sure now.
Okay. Well, in any case, if it was before, then I've incorporated it. But if it's after that, I haven't incorporated your optimization.
The main change is in the zoom out mode. Nothing really gets done unless you actually pull for the data. Before, it was getting updated 50 times a second, whether or not you actually looked at it. And so since most of them pull only about 10 hertz right there, that cuts down the load by a factor of 5.
Yeah, that's not the 3 most zoomed out zoom levels are not the most CPU intensive. They're not.
No, they're not.
Yeah,
I can also change a crossover point where I just use that mode for some, I can switch out modes at a different point. That would
yeah. Well, you might want to move them down to, instead of plus and minus 3, or I think it's a total of 6 megahertz of spectrum view. I think you might want, if you could, without impairing the utility of the spectrum display, if you could make it a little smaller, it might be a better trade-off.
Yeah.
But however much you make it, I think that it's whatever you do to optimize it, I think it would really serve you well to move the spectrum threads off of the CPU cores.
You said that. I'm reluctant to hard code anything that basic down in the bowels of my code, unless I can be assured that it is truly general and portable to all configurations.
Well, that's, as I say, I think it is. I mean, I'm not telling you which core to put it on. I'm saying put it on the ones that, if you're restricted to cores, as I restrict your proc and FFT, then I believe you could find out what cores you're restricted to, and you can find out what other cores there are, and just say, I want to run on one of those. I want this spectrum thread to run on one of those. To me, that it seems like you could do that in a universally supported way. The Intel processors and AMD processors both support that kind of CPU affinity association, and they use, I think, the same. I think that they're different drivers, but I think the interfaces are pretty much the same.
I know. I'm just afraid we'll find yet another CPU for which is the wrong thing to do. That's my concern.
Yeah, well, okay. Well, if you don't do it, I'm good. I will be doing it in Whisper Daemon. So it's not
okay.
That's not. It's and I'm not saying you need to do it. I'm just saying if you want to, I think it can be done in a way that's generalizable.
I just recommend if you do it, try to put it in. I don't know how you do it now. Try to put it into a configuration file rather than hardwiring into a service file.
Well, the service, fortunately, since you run as a service, the CPU affinities are set in the service file. So I have to modify your service file.
Oh, you can't read them out of, it can't be read out of an environment file.
Well, the alternative is, and this is what I may do, is I could take it out of the service file, and I could have Whisper Daemon go in and search for your threads, and have Whisper Daemon move your threads to cores. And maybe that's the right thing to do, you know. If you
maybe it is.
You know, and I could at the same time I could create a CPU affinity allocator for you a library for Whisper Daemon, and have it just manage which cores you run on.
Yeah,
that's the alternative, is and then you don't have to worry about what core you're running on, and I'll take care of it.
All right.
But it's it's going to be a pulled operation. I mean, I have to wake up because, if you restart your thread has a new process ID, and the Spectrum threads get, as they come and they go, they get new PIDs. So I have to wake up and pull the kernel and find out, what radio D threads are running, and then decide where they should, where they, which core they should be allocated to.
Yeah.
It's it's essential. I mean, I don't, other users, I think will encounter of your program for other applications will encounter these problems. They're not unique to Whisper Daemon's interactions with you.
No.
So if you have,
I'm just uncomfortable with embedding ad hoc mechanisms that may not generalize, it may break other environments.
Yeah, but it has to be done one way or the other.
Yeah,
it just has to be done, and I'm open to suggestions on how to do it but this conversation suggests to me, I want to modify your files, your config files, as little as possible. Believe me, I don't.
Well, I know I don't mind you modifying some of my config files as long as we agree which ones they are and we don't fight over them.
Well, I have to.
That's why I divided up the config files for Radio D.
And I confine my changes to the sections that in your new structure, your config.dj structure. That's where you have your configs. Whisper Daemon modifies just those fragment configs that it typically it's at this point it's mostly sample rate. I have to modify that because ensure that the sample rate is I almost enforce 129 megasamples. I just think that that's the right thing to do. Even sites that have 30 megahertz low pass filters, you learn so much about the quality of the receive site by looking at from 30 to 60 megahertz. Okay. Michael's off. Jay's off. I don't know. That's what I can.
Yeah, I'm gonna bail here too. Yeah, I can't think of anything else. Just
how are we doing on? When are we going to start deploying more sites, Daniel?
More sites of
Daisy sites.
Daisy sites. There has been a little bit of a complication with the RX888 orders, as in the last one got canceled. Yeah, I've learned a lot of things in the recently. One is that my last RX888 order got canceled. One is I did get hit with tariffs on the Leo Bodner order. I also learned that I was allowed to pay for the tariffs because they were unavoidable. But I will. I'm working on something with this, but maybe I can call you offline and explain what's going on.
Okay.
But we are making progress. I think I think that it's likely the next thing we're going to get deployed are the Whisper Sons, because we have those in stock. We are, I'm just going to order the antennas, and Gary is now back from vacation, so we can start deploying Whisper Sons.
And you're gonna put it, Pi 3s with them? Is that part of the package?
I don't have that on there right now, but we can probably make that
You,
happen.
yeah, the Pi 3 is completely suitable.
Okay.
But I think our experience with Cherry in London shows how essential it is that we have the remote access to the the Whisper Sons in the same way we need to have
Okay.
it to the receive
We
sites.
we can get something like that to happen.
Yeah, I mean, the cheapest Linux computer you can come up with.
Yes.
And I think that the Pi 3B is the most reasonable of them. I tried it with the Pi Zero, and while it costs only when I bought it, it was $15. You had to add a USB adapter to it, and then you needed a little case for it, and you needed, all these little things, and it ended up costing as much as a 3B.
Okay.
And it's enough trouble to have this tangle of wires going in and out of the Whisper Sound as is.
Yes.
They seem to be a source of at Jerry's. They seem to be a source of USB communications problems. We need to test that, Paul. We need to test out how you literally how you connect up. In fact, to that end, it might be good if you can spare another one of your Bogner 1421s, Nathaniel. I think that we should stage at Paul's. We ought to stage a complete, or we can do it with you, with Magritte or something. But we need to
Yeah.
stage a complete system that and with exactly the wiring and the cables
For the
that are you
Whisper for the Whisper
Sound.
Sound. Yeah,
Yes,
I think that will be very doable, and I think we can have Majid do that.
yeah. You should plan that exercise. We need to go through all of them before they're shipped, because I thought I had done that for the Whisper Sound I sent to Jerry, and I hadn't done it, fully tested it.
Okay.
And the problems he had with USB connectivity. Um, he found when ideally you'd have one power supply, 12-volt power supply, and you put a splitter, and most of the current goes to the Whisper Sound. The other one goes into a DC to DC converter. Well, you need something to take a barrel connector, 12 volts from a barrel connector, and create a USB-C at 5 volts.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's in the BOM for the grape sites. So you need that, and then you need a specific USB cable, that goes from there to the USB input of the Whisper Sound, and a USB cable that goes to the Bogner, and the right cables. You need all of these, and they should be the same, because it appears like this. The smallest change in any of these seems to perturb the systems, the stability of the systems. And without the Bogner and the gateway incorporated into the Whisper Sound itself, we need to come up with a set of every individual device and test it and make sure that they're all the same, because we spent half of our time with Jerry getting that connectivity working with him.
And even before the Bodnar issue, just having the Pi recognize the USB port, the virtual thumb drive or whatever you want to call it, coming out of the Whisper Sound. It depended which version of Linux we were running. The latest version, you had to jump through some hoops as far as mounting drives and all that. Whereas if you loaded the latest desktop version, apparently, I don't know what they're doing differently, but it does all that stuff for you. And you can run the desktop version, remote. You don't need to have the monitor and the keyboard on it. you'd have, still have
Sure.
access, remote
Yeah.
access that way. But anyway, one way or another, yeah, we need to have a stable
Everything
configuration
about
there.
it has to be specified. The version of the software, the hardware, the cables, they all need to be tested and consistent between the different sites.
Right.
And I had not done that successfully. So
Okay.
appropriately. So I would just, so I think that you need to, that's very, if you're thinking about shipping Whisper Songs, it's timely to get that going. So,
We will work on that. And
okay.
I'm also in the process of doing something to maybe get me more help managing all of this. So
It would be great. Yeah, it would be great to have even a student who
yeah.
is responsible for monitoring, logging on, monitoring these systems, verify that they're up and running. I was, this is something, use Claude AI or something and tell it to write a little monitor program that looks at the RX 888 and log files and verifies that all the Whisper Demon, Daisy Whisper Sound sites are transmitting and somebody's receiving them.
There are existing tools for remote monitoring of systems that can
Yeah,
be adapted.
but yeah, I mean, I'm not specifying how that would be done, but we do
Leave that
need,
up to the student.
yeah,
But yeah, it would be a great student project.
yeah, we need. I think that's something that I would like to have for my set of, as you saw, we don't know what's happened with the VK0. ERC. I don't know if it's, I don't know what's going on, and I don't know when it went away, but there should be a trigger that says if somebody hasn't heard from a site for X hours, whatever, and it should be almost a per site basis, is how long do we wait before we flag an alert? Well, for Ellesmere Island or Antarctica, we'd probably wait longer. If it's a site here in the U.S., somebody ought to hear them every hour. And if they can't, somebody responsible for the system ought to be informed by email or something and said, you've got something wrong. So we need somebody who monitors and the system to verify that it's up and running and, because yeah.
Rob and Phil, I agree that sort of a tool would be really good to have in so many ways to accomplish it. But I also want to point out, I stuck a quick query that I sent out in the chat about processor affinity and got the answer I got on
I
that.
saw that.
Pardon, is it?
I saw that, yeah.
It was
your note.
asking the question you wanted an answer to.
Oh,
I hope so. But
I didn't see
Yeah,
that.
I know that's possible. The question is whether it's the right thing to do in all cases.
sure, but it is possible.
Yeah, I know it's possible. Yeah.
Yeah, and it even says some stuff about how to do it. So
Yeah, I use the task set command mentioned there, Dave.
Yeah.
In fact, what I do is if I go into a site that where somebody else is already there, I will actually run, when I open my Q web page, I will do a task set and move my Spectrum thread off of the core 0 and core 1, which is where I typically, where they run.
And it would be
but
nice to see that information remotely too, even.
Yeah, it's, I mean, it's, there's something called CPU power. There's a command CPU power that I have started to install by default that allows you to examine and configure all of the CPUs in the in your processor on your server.
Sure.
And in various ways. I haven't really explored all of the ways you can. It's a more subtle. I mean, they have a whole separate processor that for each main processor, there's a little performance monitoring control processor, and it can run. You can tell it to run in different ways. The performance or power save. They have a whole bunch of different. Some of them have different.
Actually, they've all been doing that at least since the first multi-core modules came out. I know I wrote an email to Roger Nelson, whoever was one of the BeagleBone people, because I looked at their module that they were using, and when they first came out with some multi-core ones, and as the spec sheet said there were 5 processors, not 4 on this one
Yeah.
unit. I said, "What's that 5th core?" And they didn't even know. They weren't, but that was quite a while ago. But that's, yeah, it's usually done. It's maybe a watchdog, but it's also it does the task scheduling and some other housekeeping tasks usually.
Yeah. Well, there is also a watchdog processor in these machines, which I haven't turned on. I haven't had any Whisper Demon site lock up.
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't had the need. Speaking of which, lockup, what are we doing about the watchdog version of the FX3 driver? Scott's created it. Phil, are you planning to make that the standard image that you load?
I can make anything. I mean, I just have to drop it into the Git somewhere. I mean,
Phil, there's a pull request for doing just that.
oh, all right. Well, I'm way behind on that. I haven't done anything since in 2 weeks. So
Yeah, well, that's an example of something I think would be better for your code to do. I mean, I could have Whisper Demon put in Scott's code, but I think
no. I mean, if this is the one you want me to run, I mean, I've been waiting on Scott to like really swear up and down a stack of Bibles that this is the right thing to do.
Okay.
Well, it's not run anywhere else yet. I'm the only one that's ever run it. So
okay.
Well, that's the
until it's run elsewhere, I don't think we should make it the default. But the pull
I can keep the old code in there somewhere as a backup, I suppose, for the time being.
Well, the pull request just added the FX3 firmware into the was it user local share K9Q radio.
Isn't that where I put it?
I think something like that.
Yeah.
And you have a config file option to specify the file name of the FX3 image. So you could leave that as the default.
Don't I already put, I know I have a firmware blob somewhere. Because I know I load it. It's one of the first things I do when the driver starts.
And so the pull request just adds 3 or 4 different versions of firmware to the same directory so you can pick them.
Okay.
So if you put it in there, I could, I don't know, you decide on how you want to try this out, Phil, but if you wanted to put it as an option, then I could have Whisper Demon have a config file option to specify Scott's, and I could make that the default for Whisper Demon sites and give you both feedback on if there's any problems with Scott's code.
But is there likely to be, bugs aside, just one preferred version of the?
I think so. I would time out. I mean, you time out after 5
seconds.
Put it
in there and tell me which one it is, and I'll pull it.
Well, it's Scott's I think saying that he's a little reluctant for it to become the default. So if that's the case, then Whisper Demon should specify, I guess, in the config file, the radio D config file could specify to use an alternative image for the 888.
All right.
I mean, if that's how is that how you would want this to be done?
Say that again.
Well, we could. Okay, Scott's. If I'm speaking for Scott, tell me if I'm wrong, Scott. But I think Scott is reluctant to have his code become the default image without more testing.
Okay, well.
So the way to test it would be for you to incorporate it as an option.
Yeah.
Make this as a second image file. the say 20, what is it? 20-second timeout, watchdog timeout on the,
I
I
think
think
there's
is,
20, 60, and 120.
yeah, I would do it after 20 because if he already times out and tries to and does a retry after 5 seconds of no data. So
Yeah, I actually exit after 5
you
seconds.
exit, yeah, you
Yeah,
exit
it's
after
allows
5.
system D to restart me.
Yeah, and so
I mean, I can
and
just do like any other change. Just you already specify commits, so I can just make it the current one. And if it doesn't work, don't take it.
then we'll, okay, then we can change it. That would be easier for me than to have to put it in as a config option
All
into
right,
Whisper
that's
Daemon
what we'll do.
and so, and I will quickly test it. Well, that
Okay.
means you're gonna they're gonna pull me away. I'm gonna have to go look at your new build structure and make Whisper Daemon. It's not a big deal. I got the other thing I realized is I also have to modify. I didn't realize there was a service file for for the QWeb service file. So I've been just
Yeah, I
executing
mean,
it
there was
myself.
one that came with it originally. I lightly
Well,
modified it, but I didn't write it.
I confess I didn't see it. So I just ran it. I just spawned off a little, and I want to get rid of my code to do that. I'm trying to run everything the way it's delivered. I never run
Yeah,
your radio D as from the
yeah.
command
And
line. It's
I've
always as,
noticed it's kind of Linux practice to try to avoid having to customize a service file or modify it. Try to put things into Etsy
yeah,
Radio when possible. I mean, there's a lot of security rules that keep you from doing that sometimes.
yeah. Well, it seems to work quite well. It's
Yeah,
just it's when you make changes, it means I have to make changes to
I understand.
accommodate it, and then I'm it's
But it only
this
affects the building of KNIQ Radio. It does not affect the operation.
no I no I just no it works well. It's just it's this
Yeah, it's just
one more nibble, with
I
just
was
one more
afraid it was
software
going to
development
happen.
nibble.
When I started running KNIQ Radio, I was afraid that when I put it out there, people were going to start and their code is going to start entrailing with mine instead of
Yeah,
using well-defined external interfaces. This has also happened with KNIQ Web.
yeah,
And it's kind of like one of the things that makes me hesitate to put code out there for the first commit. Is
yeah,
this really close enough to what I want that, it won't be too hard to change and maintain
yeah,
back availability and so forth. Then I find out that, when I make some function static because I don't use it except in one function, then all of a sudden other people's code starts breaking because they're including my code and I didn't know about it.
yeah.
You
Well,
know?
I don't do any of that.
Yeah, well, KNIQ Web does.
I know Web does. Well, anyway, I will modify if no one else does it. I think I understand the service file structure well enough to
Yeah.
modify
Service files are probably best written by example.
yeah.
Rather
You have
than man pages are huge. I mean, zillions of options. But if you look at some existing ones, you'll see how they work.
yours is a good prototype.
Yeah.
Your service file is
Although,
pretty clear.
don't throw the manual away. The manual can still be useful for certain features.
I
Like if there's
asked.
something you want System D to do, they probably already thought of it.
Oh yeah,
Pretty comprehensive and widely
well,
used.
yeah,
There's just a lot to learn, and most of it you'll never need.
yeah. Well, I don't know if anybody stepped up. Wayne doesn't sound like he's maintaining the QWeb right now. It doesn't sound like he's all that eager to work on service files. So maybe I'll take it on. It's
Okay.
But that means to do that, I also have to change Whisper Daemon to do to understand your new build structure. I think it's not. Hopefully, it's not too much work. I mean, you just you have the make files are down in a subdirectory now, right? It's in source and
Well, there's a top level makefile. It invokes a makefile in each of the subdirectories. And most of them are very simple. They just copy to a spool directory. The only one that's sniving is the one that makes all the binaries. But I wanted to start separating things out.
Yeah, well, I can understand.
And also it's kind of nice because when I'm just working on the source code, I can go into that subdirectory and do a make install, and it's much quicker than when it has to install everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bunch of file copies and count creations and stuff like that. So it goes much faster.
Okay. Okay. Detour. One more development detour for me, but it's a I'll work on that.
Okay.
Yes, Scott's just recursive make considered harmful.
I saw that, and ChatGPT took me down a rabbit hole until I said, "Screw this! I'm going to do it the way I originally wanted to do it, which is to do a recursive make."
Well, your
Not
project's
that
small
bad.
enough, it's not a big deal either way.
Yeah.
It's not like you've got thousands of source files. And I
Well,
think for
true.
Rob, the biggest change is going to be that you don't do that symlink to makefile.linux anymore.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's helpful.
The symlink makefile versus makefile.linux.
Yeah.
That's probably the
gone.
biggest change for
Oh,
Rob.
yeah, yeah. It doesn't need to be that way anymore for
Right.
many
Yeah.
things. That's right. That's right. That's one
Well,
reason.
I did not send you a pull request on that, but I had hacked up Whisper Demon to use the latest
Okay.
stuff just to do some testing.
All right.
And that was one of the things I tripped over. The
Okay.
make files and the subdirectories were not a problem at all.
I haven't even
Okay,
logged into
okay.
GitHub in 2 weeks, so I know there's going to be a huge pile waiting for me to get in there.
Hmm.
Yeah, there's
Okay.
a bunch of
Look, I just had
documentation changes
I just
today.
had my skull drilled 2 weeks ago. I still have a headache.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
we're glad to have you with us, Phil.
Thank
It's
you.
nice to have you back.
With
So.
complete success, by the way, from what I can tell.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's-
Look up
that's-
trigeminal neuralgia sometime. That's what I was dealing with.
Yeah. I okay. I need to do a little errand here. I don't know if there's anything else. Elmer, you're working on VLF power supplies, so I don't think there's.
Yeah,
You've been
I
pretty
just have
fast.
to. I'm gonna box it up. Well, if I can tomorrow, box it up and begin some local testing before I talk to Nathaniel about what we're gonna do next.
Yeah. Well, okay. I haven't even logged on or updated your servers at all, and we never really we have yet to resolve the DNS problems that we have on your.
Yeah, I
ones.
haven't touched it since you said that you wanted to leave it
Yeah.
like that so it could be looked at. So
Yeah.
I bought another
Well-
computer that I'm working on now.
Okay. Well,
I got the GPU 100% used.
Yeah, really.
Yep, it's railed.
Yeah.
That's not hard to do.
I was talking with a friend of mine this we had lunch this weekend who's just left Intel where he was in charge of AI video compression and talking about GPUs, and I described our task. Of course, he said the GPUs that are built into the CPUs you're using are probably not worth it fiddling with. They're not going to accelerate you.
I was wondering about that.
Yeah, he said that's not worth doing. If you want to, if you want to do something like SETI, it'll accelerate. They have to have their own memory space.
Oh, yeah.
And there's not enough.
I'm familiar with the SETI problem.
Yeah, yeah.
Again, it's all about data movement, not processing.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
That's the problem.
Yeah. So Raul, my friend, who's now with they have a little subsidiary of Cisco now working on AI network optimization. That's not the right term. It's not our view of networking, but there's apparently a way to monitor the data flow through AI systems, and they're working on something to optimize that. But anyway, he said that an NVIDIA, even a low end NVIDIA card, would dramatically accelerate if the application requires it. Would accelerate the processing, the GPU.
I'm not even sure K9Q radio is big enough to really use a graphics card.
Well,
I mean, it runs in real time on it, and the problem is, again, moving the data into the GPU and back.
Well, now, on moving the data, isn't that something Apple's playing with? I hate to even suggest this, but you might look at what Apple's done on their recent stuff. I think they've got unified memory, where the GPU and the CPU share the same.
Well, I hesitate to invest any of my time in anything proprietary. I mean, I do use
exactly.
The computer in front of me is a MacBook, but I only use I only write using the general purpose Unix stuff underneath. I'm not going to invest my time in anything Apple specific. But if it's generic, then I'll learn it.
Yeah, well, apparently the Raul said if you have a data set that's large enough, and said he would, right? You have what 10
Oh, yeah. Those
gigahertz
guys
of
are
data
using 100 gigabit Ethernet, and they're going
yeah,
faster. So
yeah. But it doesn't anyway. I don't know how they do their analysis, but
I do know something about it,
yeah,
and a
yeah.
lot of it has been restructuring the processing to minimize the number of data moves in and out of the GPU's memory. That is a
Yeah.
big win.
Yeah. Well, as far as I can tell, I think that our little, B-Links can easily handle 4 888s, local 888s, and do all of to not just radio decoding and demodulating, but also do the whisper processing of all those channels, all on the 5825 or whatever, 5800, 7800, whatever you have. There's plenty of CPU cycles to do all that for local 888s.
Yeah.
So I got to run. I go do a little
All right.
errand. So
I will see you guys.
okay. If you guys are here, I may be back, but I think I've burned enough of your time.
I guess I'm going to bail too. Good night, all.
Good night.